Welcome to Vanishing Gates. I am Jay, and this is.
Katie Cat.
We are your hosts into the strange and the unexplained. Jack is not here with us today. He still has a bit of the coofs. He'll be back next week. He's recovering. So, Katie Cat, have you ever been sitting down and realized just as you get comfortable that you forgot your drink or a snack or your remote?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, or any of those things, right?
Yeah.
Then it would be nice to have the ability to just force pull it to you, like in Star Wars.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've always thought about that.
Life would be a little bit easier if you could just move objects to you with your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if I told you some people can, in fact, pull things to them or otherwise interact with the world around them with no physical movement?
Really?
There's no shortage of claims of psychic abilities, people claiming they can do all sorts of shit. And there are a plethora of supposed psychic abilities. The psychic ability to move things with one's mind, you know what it's called?
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis or psychokinesis, yes.
Yeah.
We get the word telekinesis from the Greek tele, which means far or at a distance, and from kinesis, which is movement or motion.
Okay.
So if you go to see someone that practices kinetics, bodily kinetics, it's usually someone working with the human body and range of motion and functionality and things like that. We have the kinetic sculpture race, it's the sculptures that move. Kinetics, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's nerd problematic there. So the first usage of the word telekinesis in the English language was recorded in the 1880s for the English version of it. But as far as we know, the first use of it at all was in 1890 by a Russian advisor to the Tsar Alexander III, Alexander Akashkov. So a little Russian history for you there in case you guys are really into the Ruska pattern. On January 15th in 1846, in a small village near Normandy, or La Pierre in Bovigny, depending on the source, a girl named Angelique Cotton, I can't remember how it's pronounced, it's spelled Cotton, was weaving gloves with three other girls. I guess you weave gloves back then. I don't know about that. Maybe I would think knitting.
Weave.
Maybe weave silk, like silk gloves, and sew
Maybe.
them. I don't know. They were weaving gloves. That's all I saw. Okay. But the oak table they were using started to jump around violently and move, and it scared the ever-loving crap out of the girls. So they immediately stopped working, and the girls started again working after it stopped. So it started and it freaked them out, and then it settled down. So they went back to work because oh yeah, okay, the table freaked out. Big ass oak table just moving around.
Oh,
And
we're
they
just
went
gonna go
back to work. Yeah, to me that seems a little odd. And not here in California we have earthquakes, so you'd think, oh okay, what was that? Or maybe
Well,
somebody
that's
bumped
what I
it.
would think. Yeah.
But I don't think they have a lot of earthquakes in that region of France.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that they do. I'm sure they do a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe it's rare. I don't know.
Yeah. So they sat back down. They started to work, and when they started to work again, when Angelique sat down after the rest of the girls sat down, the table seemed to move away from her, like it was being pushed or forced away from her, like shoved violently. She sat down and went poof, like if you take magnets and put the opposite poles
Yeah.
or the same pole together or whatever, it pushes away.
Yeah. We learned about that in probably middle school or high school.
I'm rocking elementary school
Elementary.
for that.
Yeah.
Captain Kangaroo and Mr. Science.
Yeah. We were all very young when we learned about that.
Yeah, hella young. So similar occurrences would continue the next morning, and of course, being a smaller area, I guess a small community, the townsfolk really quickly caught on to hearing about it, and we're trying to figure out, we're hearing that, this thing is happening anyway.
Yeah.
And this is the 1800s, so you can assume it did not go in the greatest direction. See, at the time Angelique was 14, witchcraft was still apparently a big fear among people.
I was just going to mention they probably thought it was witchcraft.
I mean, what would you think first, just out of nowhere, realistic? Honestly, it's not a crazy thought back in the day.
If I was alive back then?
Yeah.
I would think, I don't know what I would think because I wasn't alive back then, so I don't know. I don't know how
honest.
I don't know how they thought. They probably thought a lot different than we do now. So.
Well, they jumped to witchcraft, so probably.
Yeah, they thought it was or evil. They probably thought it was either witchcraft or something evil.
Exactly.
Or religious,
Yeah, and so people were going as far as to suggest that she was possessed by a devil like a demonic force was possessing her body.
Yeah.
People were like straight up accusing her of that. So, but luckily for Angelique, when they did finally bring her to an exorcist, because apparently they brought her to an exorcist, a community got together and threw a temper tantrum enough where she was going to be exorcised.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they brought her to a priest. The priest was a little more level-headed, and instead of just assuming that's what's happening and doing an exorcism, which back then would end fatally quite frequently, it was not a polite thing. There's other cases of that in more recent history. There's one, oh, I can't remember her name. It was very famous. Um, Also a French girl.
Emily Rose.
Yeah, but that's the girl. It was based on the girl.
Oh.
Emily Rose is based on the girl. I can't remember her name off the top. We've done a show
Yeah,
about
I
it,
don't
but
either. I don't know.
um, but he wanted to check out the phenomenon himself, because that's a word, himself. So he had her brought to his house, which, she's not a young boy, so I guess a Catholic priest bringing you to her house isn't so crazy, so dangerous.
Not so worrisome.
Not so worrisome. Just kidding, Catholics. It's a joke. Even your Pope would have laughed, I promise. He wouldn't have laughed. When Angelique was brought to the priest's home, sure enough, things would continue to move. The table moved that they were at. A chair would move while she was sitting in it in ways that made no sense, like it was rocking violently, trying to push her out of the chair, it looked like. It would move back and forth, side to side, in ways that she absolutely couldn't move it. The happenings were so intense, they drew a lot of attention at this point, not just from the townspeople, but various professional men. Top men. I just had to get that line in there. I had to.
Top man.
Indiana Jones, buddy. So various people testified as to what they saw as people gathered around, and some even wanted to use it to make money and suggested, hey, we could put her as a sideshow or she could charge for this talent, trying to showcase the odd events as a way to be lucrative to them, obviously. They weren't thinking about it for her as much as them. But a group of scientists did get together, and one doctor in particular, Dr. Sanchon, wrote the committee looking into this case, and this is his account. This is what I saw, says the physician. 1. Repulsion and attraction, bounding and displacement of a massive table. Also of another table, mounted on casters, about 3 meters by 2. Another square table, in oak, about 1.5 meters in size. An armchair of mahogany, which is very heavy, guys. Very massive, so a very, very big, heavy chair of mahogany. All these movements took place from the voluntary or involuntary contact of Angelique's clothes. 2. When she was seated, overturning and repulsion of the young girl and the person who was occupying the same chair. A momentary adherence of the chair to the girl's dress was seen several times. Cessation of these effects when the chair and the young girl were placed upon glass or oilcloth, or when the girl was placed upon the chair without having the feet of the latter touch the floor. Effects generally lessen or less upon waxed floors or carpets. So she'd be up on the chair with her feet not touching, and it would still move, but less so upon waxed floors or on carpets for whatever reason. So I guess on hardwood or rock or cement or stone, it would move more. 3. Great disturbance noticed in the girl, recalling that which is produced by an electric discharge. When a piece of wood, a stick, a shovel, or tongs was brought in contact with the vertebral column, my fingers held toward her forehead or the top and above all the back of her head, either by actual contact or at a distance of 2 centimeters, produced the same effect as it had when done when brought in contact with the elbow of the left arm. Disappearance of this effect with a piece of oilcloth was interposed between the arm and the object. In other words, she would be shooting static electricity off, and she would arc. When metal was come up, they'd complete a circuit with her, basically, and when they used an oilcloth, it would break the circuit. So it would stop having those electric discharges.
Weird.
You ever had static electricity build up and accidentally shocked somebody or yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you work around plastic wrap or anything like that, or certain clothing that's been in the dryer, you didn't put a static sheet in it. The static sheet takes the static out. It's meant to stop that from happening.
Oh, okay.
But she was emitting that all the time,
Oh.
or at least frequently enough when being in contact with these people. They actually called her the Electric Girl, which sounds like a girl power movie that you'd see Disney produce right now.
Sounds like a superhero. Like, the Electric Girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It sounds like something that you would try to act in when you were a child.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Like a play. something?
No, like a Disney show.
Oh, like a Disney show.
You just
Yeah.
have the look of it. I'm sorry.
Oh, me? You're talking about me
Yeah,
personally?
you directly.
Oh, well, thanks, I guess. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but anyway.
So 4, because he continues with 4. Painful and insupportable sensation of itching when one or two iron rods strongly magnetized or held several centimeters from the extended fingers on her left hand or from her head. Non-magnetized iron did not produce the effect. A magnetized needle, suspended horizontally from the ceiling by a long thread, deviated from the direction of the terrestrial magnetic axis and oscillated at the approach of the girl's left arm. The young girl was generally heavily charged when I was near her because I did not arouse in her any feeling of mistrust, but always endeavored to spare her suffering. I thought that, in order to appear to the best advantage, her mind must be free, and she herself gay and lively, although her will seemed to be entirely void of influence. So basically, when she'd be around certain things, it was like she was putting off a different magnetic field to things around her that were magnetized. It would cause her pain to come in contact, or close contact anyway, close to contact with certain magnetic fields. And to kind of negate this, he would approach her in a way that was making her more comfortable to lessen the effect. So the more comfortable she got, the less effective the phenomenon was.
Okay.
It's kind of like the idea of poltergeist not being a ghost, but something like this, a telekinetic, uh, psychonetic experience. Like you're having an emotional thing. It's a lot of young girls around Angelique's age, around 14, when this kind of poltergeist activity happens. And it's usually right around the time they get their first time of the month. Their first moon cycle, as they say. I said it like that because it's a ridiculous term. I'm sorry. I'm not getting into
I've
that.
literally never called my period a moon cycle.
You just did.
No, I didn't.
You just referred to it. You just said moon cycle.
I've never called it that, though. I'm saying I've never called it that.
Okay. That's fair. Angelique's relatives resolved at length to take the electrical girl, see there it is, to Paris in order to submit her to the examination of the academicians. Good God, the academic people. How's that? During the public seance in the 17th of... Dude, very academic, holding a seance. Very... I want to just say, the scientific reasoning on these 1800s scientific minds is unfathomable to this mushy-brained... Anyway. 24, whatever. Seance for a scientific seance. Okay. On the 17th of February at Academia des Sciences, the secretary Arago published the experiments to which Dr. Sanchon had subjected the girl and read a notice given him by this physician, which appeared in the official Compte Rendu in this session. It is as follows. I have twice, says Dr. Sanchon, seen the electrical girl, Angelique Cotin, a chair which was holden as firmly as possible with my foot and both hands, was suddenly torn from my grasp when she sat upon it. A little strip of paper which I balanced on my finger was blown away several times as though by a sudden gust of wind. Now that I can see that happening without anything really crazy.
Yeah,
That's
paper. I mean,
yeah, I don't find that to be the most scientific, but I guess circumstances considering. A dining table of considerable size and quite heavy was several times displaced and pushed by the mere contact of the girl's clothes. A small paper wheel, placed vertically or horizontally upon its axis, received a rapid motion from the emanations which proceeded from the child's wrist and elbow joint. Good elbow.
Elbow.
I am elbow. I'm here for your elbows. What is wrong with me? A very large and heavy sofa on which I was seated was violently pushed against the wall when the young girl placed herself beside me. Sounds like furniture really doesn't like this chick.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's her problem. It sounds like it's a furniture problem.
Yeah, it does.
A chair held to the ground by strong persons, on which I sat in a manner. Now, are these strong French people? Because if you tried that versus strong American people, I wonder if the outcome would be any. That's a scientific experiment. The chair probably wouldn't have moved. It was us.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Frankies. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get a bunch of francophonic hate mail. On which I sat in a manner so as to occupy but half of it, was suddenly pushed from under me when the girl sat upon the remaining half. A remarkable fact is that each time the chair was raised, it seemed to adhere to the girl's clothes. She followed it for an instant and then disengaged herself. Two little balls of elderwood or small pieces of quill suspended by a silk thread were distributed, attracted, and finally separated one from the other. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. We're just going to go with. We understand the part about the chair and the clothes hooking to the chair. It's fine. It's fine. The young girl's emanations were not permitting during the day, or permanent during the day. They appeared in the evening from 7 to 9 o'clock. This gives me the idea that her last meal, which she takes at 6 o'clock, has some influence in regard to them. I don't think there's any scientific reasoning behind that, aside from it happens at a certain time around dinner. To me, I don't think your food makes you more magnetic or electrical or staticky.
I don't know why it would, unless it's like
Was she
something
eating lint?
she eats specifically, like.
She's just eating
I don't know.
lint and rayon. I guess that would cause it. Um, they recurred on the interior surface of the body, particularly at the wrist and elbow. They only recurred on the left side. The arm on the side this was warmer than the other. A gentle warmth was radiated from it as from a member which a vivid reaction takes place. This part of the body was trembling and continually affected by unusual contractions and quivering, which seemed to be communicated to any hand that touched her. This just sounds way more adult than it really is. Some of the wording on this,
like
it sounds kind of erotic,
sexual,
vaguely
yeah.
erotic. I swear, guys, this is just how this guy wrote his notes. Could you imagine going to the doctor, like a podiatrist, and having him write like a prescription for toe cream or something? But in the details of the prescription, it goes into vivid like conversations about the emanating quiveringness of your toes. Like, it would make you uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this doctor wouldn't instill the greatest comfort levels with me.
Yeah, maybe he's a pervert. Who knows?
Well, he's probably not alive now, considering
Maybe
this
he
is
was a
the
pervert.
late 1800s. Okay, which seemed unusual contractions and quivering, which seemed to be communicated to any hand that touched her, so she would transmit these as well. During the time that I noticed this young person, her pulse varied from 105 to 120. It often appeared irregular. That's kind of crazy. When the girl was removed from the chair, the common reservoir. What does that even mean? Either by placing her in a chair without letting her feet touch the ground, or by resting her feet against those of another person standing before her. I should have looked up a reservoir. I wonder if it's one of those pits they have in science academies back then.
Was she in like water or something?
I don't know. They don't specify that. I think they would say that she was in water.
Hmm.
That also sounds kind of dangerous if she's emitting a lot of electrical field.
Yeah.
Of course, then again, she's mostly made of water. Fun fact, you're basically a big bag of electricity and saline, so you're an antenna.
Yeah, that's why you get struck by lightning. You can get struck by lightning. So
That, and if you ever noticed around certain radios, if the station's kind of weak and you stand close to it, it'll get stronger. Or if you take your car keys up to your chin, it's more likely you can go further with your alarm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yours, yeah, depending on the battery.
I knew the thing about the antenna, like it can make noises when you go near it and stuff.
Yeah, it's a radio frequency. You're just basically a big RF module.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see how some of this could be realistic to a degree, but I feel like it's grossly exaggerated. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. When the girl's common reservoir, without letting her feet touch the ground or by resting her feet against those of another person standing before her, the phenomenon did not take place. It also ceased when she put her hands beneath her or sitting down. A waxed floor, a piece of oilcloth, or a glass plate put under her feet or upon her chair equally destroys her electrical faculty. Okay, so all of those are non-insulatory items, so that kind of makes sense. During the paroxysm, the girl can hardly touch anything with her left hand without causing it to be thrown some distance. That's her throwing hand. When her clothes come in contact with pieces of furniture, she attracts, displaces, and finally overturns them. This will be better conceived when the fact is known that at each electrical discharge she endeavors to escape in order to avoid the result. In other words, she doesn't want it to happen. She tries to stop it from happening. It's not something she's doing on purpose. She gets weirded out by it and is not uncomfortable with it happening. I'm reading more into that, but that's pretty much what that means.
Yeah.
She says that she always feels a pricking sensation at her wrist and elbow. In searching for the pulse or temporal artery, not being able to appreciate it in the left arm, my fingers inadvertently touched the nape of the neck. Instantly the girl uttered a cry, and disengaged herself from me. Again, this guy just sounds creepy. I just brushed my fingers ever so gently against the nape of her neck. And he used the term nape as well, which this is also translated from French, so maybe we're losing something
Yeah,
in
it's
translation.
different, probably.
The girl uttered a cry and disengaged from me. It just sounds creepy. In the re- in the region of the cerebellum, I have tested this many times, where the muscles, yeah, now it sounds really creepy when he says that, where the muscles of the upper portion of the neck are inserted into the cranium. There was such a sensitive spot that the girl could not bear to have it touched. A
Yeah.
spot, a spot which retained all the sensations she felt in her left arm. The, the child's electric emanations seem to occur at intervals and successively in different portions of the interior part of her body. I remarked on this occasion that in the displacement of the table, which requires great force, the electricity was in the base of the brain. So he goes on to say that he doesn't understand what's causing it. But here's what he does. I mean, there's more to it. I don't think we need to read the entire dissemination of his article there.
Yeah.
We read most of it, and it all pretty much says the same kind of stuff. Now, this was sent to the Academy of Scientific Folk. That's what I'm going to call it, because I can. And the Academy sat together and read over his findings, and they did not agree with his findings at all for whatever reason. I don't know. He didn't really seem like he found anything aside from phenomena without any real fundamental argument. So they said in the session of the 16th of February, the Academy received from M. Cholet and Dr. Sanchon two notices relative to the extraordinary faculty which is said was developed about a month ago in a young girl from Ornay Angelique Cotin, again aged 14 years. The Academy, in conformity with its usual custom, appointed a committee to examine these alleged facts and to give an account of the result. We will discharge this duty in very few words. It was affirmed that Middle Cotton exercised a most intense action of repulsion upon bodies of all kinds whenever a portion of her garments touched them. Accounts were even given of heavy tables being overturned by the simple contact of silk thread. No effect of this kind was manifested before the committee, meaning you're not onto a good start of trying to prove your point with this committee. We're already telling you we don't like it. They said that with the very few words, part of it,
Yeah.
which is great considering the last amount of words was not few. The more you have to discuss something, the less you probably are adding to the conversation. Um, yeah, basically, let me just get to the point. After having fully weighed the circumstances, the committee is of the opinion the communications transmitted to the Academy on the subject of Angelique Cotton should be considered as never having been sent in.
What?
Yeah.
So they're just gonna say, it never happened.
You might as well have just never sent this because you're full of shit, is what they're saying. They're calling him full of crap without just saying it. That was a
Wow.
very polite way
Like
to
somebody
say.
just made it up.
Yeah, it wasn't even polite, really. Like, you should just not have sent this to us. Like, why are you wasting our time with this?
Wow.
They just brushed it off. Like, look,
I
dude.
mean, yeah, I mean, how would anybody know if it was true or not? Like, there's no documentation except for what this guy said, the doctor.
Exactly.
So,
And
no
that's
pictures, there's no nothing, because there wasn't any back then.
well,
So.
they had photographs, but they weren't going to be recording a lot of stuff
Yeah.
there. And they did have the ability to make film. It was just very few and far between.
It was rare. So, yeah.
Now, young French girls aren't the only ones that have abilities like this, allegedly. Some yogis, supposedly, and martial artists make claims being able to move things with the power of their mind. With the martial arts one, I can kind of put the kibosh on that after studying martial arts my whole life. I've never met anyone who can even kind of do something like that, who isn't just talking completely out of their ass. I did have
on something.
yeah, I did have a guy threaten me with a force ball once, and then he went through the whole Kamehameha motion and did that and walked away and said, "You're gonna die in 18 years," and I'm still here. So he wasn't very good.
How long ago was that?
A lot longer than 18 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So
he was saying
I was
whatever
in
he did
I was
was
in
going to
junior
kill you
high.
later.
Yeah, I'm like,
Wow.
so I'm gonna take this as a W for this confrontation. All right, buddy.
Wow, what an idiot.
Yeah, and then so a lot of people talk about telekinesis and things, but one person made a great career out of debunking a lot of these claims, and a lot of claims of the psychic phenomenon in general. And that was the Amazing Randy, James Randi. You ever hear about the Amazing Randy? Your mom ever talked about him? He
No.
would be on TV. He had the $1 million challenge. And the $1 million
I think I've
challenge.
heard of that show, but
Yeah, basically, if you could prove to Mr. Randy without him being able to disprove it that you had a psychic ability, he would give you $1 million.
really?
After all these years, that money is never paid out to anyone.
So they. Oh, okay.
No one could ever do anything in front of him that he couldn't disprove. Same with Penn and Teller.
Oh yeah.
They don't do the same thing. But he was one of the ones that they liked because Penn and Teller are the comedic magicians who.
Yeah,
you know,
they're funny.
They're illusionists, not magicians.
They're illusionists. Yeah.
And Amazing Randy was an illusionist. That's how he got really into it.
Well, I used to think magic was real, and then I watched that show where the guy with the mask showed all the magic tricks and how they were done, and I was like, oh well, there it is.
One of the best parts about growing up with a magician as one of your best friends is it's gobbledygook.
It's all BS.
Mm-hmm.
It's all BS.
Like I only
None
stopped.
of it's real.
Our friend Marciano, my friend Marciano, the Magnificent. He's been on the show. He'll be on the show again one of these days. One of my oldest friends, probably my oldest friend, continually. He is an illusionist, and I only stopped making fun of him for it because he started getting free drinks for us with it. So I stopped making fun of him at that point.
So
It's the only reason.
I used to love Chris Angel.
That
I
doesn't
loved Chris
surprise
Angel
me.
Mind Freak. That show was so good, and I thought it was real when I was watching it. I was like, this guy is literally like a wizard or something.
My mom, I remember
he did
David
some weird
Copperfield.
stuff on there. Like how did he do the thing where he was floating? He floated all the way up into the air, like super high up into the air.
I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
Special effects.
He did it. Well, there was people there.
Yeah, but do you know what a paid extra is? Do you know how most magicians do magic tricks with like cards and stuff, where you have to pick the card and everything?
Mm-hmm.
They pick someone at random out of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That person's not random. They hire that person to be there.
Yeah,
they hire
I'm sure
4 or 5 people.
I'm sure a lot of the people in there were paid by him. But.
Oh yeah, anybody that's in those audiences, like David Blaine, 100%. Anybody in that audience has signed an NDA, non-disclosure
I just
agreement.
want to know how Chris Angel floated.
Ask a special effects artist; they can show you.
And he also cut himself in half in front of everybody.
Okay, because he survived that. Totally real.
No, but
That should have been the sign.
He
that
didn't
it
do
wasn't
like the basic where they have the thing go down the blade with the hole in it.
real. He also didn't pretend it was real.
He literally cut
either.
himself open and he had like guts falling out.
That's special
shit.
effects. But
Obviously now I know that, but
he never claimed to be any of it was real. It was he just said he was an illusionist. It's an illusion because it's not real.
Same with David Blaine and all
David
those
Copperfield. But you hear people that say they're magicians, and it's like, no, you're an illusionist if at best if you're good at it.
And it takes talent.
Oh yeah,
to make
no,
it
I'm not.
Look good.
I'm not saying it's not talent. I mean, if you want to waste all of your youth not having sex, go for it, man. If you want to be the last guy to pick up a chick at the party, you think Chris Angel is the norm? Hate to break it to you, buddy.
He had so many groupies.
I know. He's the rare one.
Yeah.
I wonder how many times he disappeared on child support payments. He's probably got more kids than Chris Brown.
Oh my god. He probably had a lot of unprotected sex.
Okay, why are we talking about
Anyway.
Anyway, we can't see. You said probably. This wasn't a claim. She's not.
I said probably.
We don't want to get sued by Chris. We don't get mind freaked in court. Anyway,
Anyway.
The CIA had a program about telekinesis and psychoactivity in the 70s. Did you know that?
No.
So in 1977, Project Stargate, the Stargate program was started. And the idea was the Soviets, the CIA got word that Soviets were probably dumping tons and tons of rupees, rubles or whatever their fake currency is, into rubles.
Oh.
RUBLES. I should know that. Into psychic phenomenon stuff. So if you ever watch the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, it's based off that idea.
I've never seen that movie.
Don't need to watch it. Not good.
Okay.
So the program was based. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that one. It's a very popular movie, but I'm not a fan. The program was based at Fort Meade in Maryland, and it was meant to find out what uses, if any, telekinesis, ESP, or ESP is extrasensory perception, in case you don't know, would have for military purposes because it's the military looking into it, the CIA is looking into it. They want to know if they can kill people with it or spy on them.
Yeah.
Like if the army or the CIA are looking into butter, they're trying to figure out how to use it to kill people. They're just weaponizing it. That's what they do.
So you're saying whatever they look into, they're using it for bad?
Well, no, they're just using it for the, not necessarily bad, just military purpose. It's the military and the CIA. Like, they're not the fucking baking club. They're not looking at a better brownie recipe to get your kid to sell more for raising money for school. They're looking into how to stay in power and just crumple our enemies before we die.
What does CIA stand for?
Central Intelligence Agency.
Oh yeah. Are they involved with the Pentagon?
Yes.
Okay.
The Pentagon is the Department of Defense headquarters.
And that's a real place, right?
Yes, the Pentagon's a real
Okay.
What do they teach you in school? Oh my God.
Listen,
yes, the Pentagon's a real place.
I haven't been to high school in a long time.
That's not a good argument.
I haven't been to school in a long time.
Not a good argument.
Don't
Well, like since first
leave
grade.
me alone. Where is the Pentagon, though?
I want to say it's in Maryland, but I can't remember. And I'm not going to Google it because I don't want to be on another watch list again
I thought it was in a different
this
country.
week.
But...
No, it's in the U.S. Why would our Central Intelligence Agency be? That would be terrible to put the headquarters for our Central Intelligence somewhere else.
I don't know. I
And
thought
our
I heard
military.
it was like in the Gulf of something.
No. No.
I don't know what that
No,
was.
we don't
but
put
I
our
heard...
intelligence in another country. That would be silly.
Anyway.
It's unclear as whether or not the Soviets were actually interested at all in any of this, but the U.S. we were going to U.S. regardless. We didn't care what the Reds were doing. Joseph McMonigal, sorry, is a retired U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer. Retired U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer who claims to have been involved in remote viewing and has written many books on the subject. But that's a whole nother episode. I want to see if I can get him on because it'd be interesting to pick his brain. I wonder if he already knows that I want to invite him and he'll email me first.
Oh.
Let's see if it works.
Use his psychic abilities.
Personally, I can't speak on the military stuff directly, but I can address, like I said, the martial arts part of it. I've never seen anything like that. Aside from that kid trying to Hadoken me and it didn't work out. And the guy was dead serious in his own mind.
Powerball.
And I swear to God, this is the kind of guy, I guarantee right now, he spent a lot of money at Merlot's Cutlery in the mall.
What's that?
They used to sell fantasy swords and stuff.
Oh.
He had mall swords collections for sure. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
He's probably got like, yeah. I don't even want to know what his room looks like.
So I mentioned the Amazing Randy. He made an enemy in one of the most famous illusionists of the time when I was a kid and a little bit before when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So Uri Geller was famous for spoon bending. Uri is a British-Israeli illusionist that has serious litigation issues with Randy. And he made a lot of claims that Randy disputed. Geller's lawsuits, they were eventually dropped against the Amazing Randy, and now he lives in Tel Aviv and just chills there. I'm not, like, basically what he would do is he would bend spoons on TV. So he'd bend the spoon before the show, bend the shit out of it, snap its neck like a fucking twig, and then he'd straighten it back out. And then he'd go like this and friction heat it till the spoon would bend. And the Amazing Randy showed it how to do it and did it and repeated it
And it
in
looked like
front
he
of
was
him.
bending it with like his
It looks
mind.
like he was bending it with his mind because he's doing friction on it because he'd go like this.
Oh.
So if you want to bend a spoon, use your mind. Just go like this. If you're really good at video games, you should be able to heat that spoon up.
Or doing other things with a spoon.
It's another kind of heating the spoon up we don't need to talk
Yes,
about.
that's what I meant.
I don't think that's how you hold the spoon. I'll have to explain how that
I
actually
don't know.
works.
I've never done drugs.
I'll have to explain how the spoon works later. Look, I'm not saying it's real or not, but it would be both really cool and also kind of crappy. I mean, we can assume that the amount of people in the world, we would have no lack of just pure chaos if it was real. If you were able to just telekinetically
Oh,
do
yeah,
things.
the world would be a nightmare.
It'd be a shit show. Because for every 100 good people, there's one terrible person that wreaks havoc on everyone else. It only takes one piece of shit to ruin
I
everybody else's
mean,
day. Ask Germany.
yeah. I mean, think about people. So think about people that are like pyromaniacs.
Oh yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
they had that type of power and could just set something on fire with their mind, the world would be on fire.
You know, pyromaniacs get away, have less of a sentence for mass murder than mass murderers do in general. They're not considered mass murderers
That
when they
does
kill
not make
everyone
sense at all.
because it's technically manslaughter. It's not always true. Sometimes they do catch them for mass murder, but versus someone that shoots up a mall, you would think it would be the same penalty, but they don't talk about that.
Yeah.
There's no money in trying to get rid of fire. Just saying. If only we regulated our fires better, we wouldn't have so many pyros.
But anyway, like, yeah, it would
speaking
be
of
a
pyro,
mess.
pyrokinesis is another idea that could exist.
Pyrokinesis, where they can set things on fire with
Yes.
their mind.
I learned about that because of Drew Barrymore.
I was gonna say, fire starter.
Yes. Stephen
Yeah.
King wrote a lot of stuff about psychokinetics and telekinesis in his books.
Yeah, like, no, that wasn't Stephen King. Never mind. I can't even think of the name of the movie.
That was almost a correction. You did it to yourself. Now you can't even do the name?
Oh my god. With the, what's that movie? The horror movie with the TV and the static and the girl that gets
Poltergeist?
poltergeist, yeah. That wasn't Stephen King.
No. And it has nothing to do with psychokinetics either.
Oh, it didn't? Oh, I thought it did, maybe.
It had to do with poltergeist, actual poltergeist, like ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's true.
the term poltergeist meaning is from the German noisy ghost, or noisy spirit.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the poltergeist activity is different than a regular haunting because it has physical manifestations.
And it's intelligent.
Well, no, yes and no. An intelligent haunting doesn't need to be poltergeist activity. Poltergeist activity can emulate, can kind of like impersonate
Like real
an
life.
intelligent haunting.
Oh,
Well, it
yeah.
causes furniture to move, things like that.
Yeah.
But they think more and more that it has to do with, because they're usually a short-lived,
Yeah.
or they follow a person for a short time and then it dissipates over years. That's why they link it to young girls and angst.
Mm.
So they're blaming the young girls and angst. Can you imagine if poltergeist activity was real? How many people on TikTok would be? The world would be chaos. That's how I know it's not real.
Yeah.
Same as before, the telekinetic thing in general. If this stuff was real, the world would just be chaos all the time.
It would be like I feel like it would be like apocalyptic.
It would. We'd be living post-apocalyptic times.
It'd be like
no
Mad
stopping.
Max.
Do you know how
We'd
many
be living
people's
Mad
heads
Max.
I would explode just
Yeah,
for the sake of doing it?
exactly.
Could you imagine people just driving in traffic and someone's head next to you just pops like in the movie Scanners,
Yeah.
causing wrecks and stuff? Like, come on.
That's how you know it's not real.
If it
'cause
was real,
it would be
humans,
chaos.
we are too chaotic a species for that to be real. But I'm not saying
And
it's
also
not. I'm
too
just saying I don't
stupid.
think it's real. Yeah, we're too dumb.
There's too many stupid people.
We would have weaponized that a long
It
time
would
ago.
be
You wouldn't need
like
guns.
if you guys have seen Idiocracy, it'd be like that, but worse.
More violent.
More violent, yeah.
Anyway, so psychokinetics, telekinesis, interesting, cool idea, interesting concept. Probably not real.
Probably not. I don't think it is.
That said, if you have the ability to do stuff like that, let us know
And give us some proof.
and show us. Come on the
I wanna
show.
see.
Yeah, teach us how to do it because I get really
Oh.
tired of having to get up off my couch when I set things down and don't want to reach it.
Yeah.
I would use it. I would 100% use it for evil too. Don't worry. Don't think it's going unused. Knocking people over, untying their shoes
Oh,
and tying
yeah,
their shoelaces
me too.
together while they walk.
People that
Be
I
a
don't
jerk.
like. Hell yeah.
Anyway, so that's our show for this week. Stay tuned for our next installment next week. And, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe and turn your notifications on. We post at least, usually weekly, most commonly weekly. I'm trying to get more into that, but we do. And the more you subscribe, the more you like, the more chance we'll have of continuing to do this more often. Because if we can get to the point where we can do this all the time, we'll do a couple a week. But we have to get there first. We really appreciate you guys. I am Jay, and this is...
Katie Cat.
And for Jack, we will catch you later, and good night, and good nightmares.
Bye.